You know that person who sits in your passenger seat and suddenly becomes the driving expert next to you? Well, you should have taken that exit. You're going too fast. Slow down. Wait, there's a better route. We roll our eyes and grip the wheel tighter, thinking it's my car. I will decide how I want to drive. But here's the truth that I think we don't like to admit to ourselves at times. And that is sometimes that annoying passenger actually knows a shortcut that we don't. Hey there, fellow travelers, and welcome back to Get In You Are Driving. I'm your host, Maria, and this is the podcast where we explore what it means to take the wheel in life's journey. I'm your host, and I want to share something with you that I think many of us forget, which is that we have more control than we think. Because when you think about it, life is a lot like driving, from unexpected breakdowns to regular maintenance to sudden detours and so much more. And this podcast is all about uncovering and discussing the many lessons that being on the road can teach us. Because at the end of the day, we get to choose our direction, our attitude, our response. And sure, the road is tough, but we are tougher. And all we need is the courage to get in the car day after day. So today we're talking about something I have been thinking a lot about. I know I always say that, but I do have to think a lot to come up with these episodes. But we're going to talk about the strangers who saved me, and I think who actually can save you too. And no, I'm not talking about like roadside assistance, the AAA people that you call when your car breaks down. I'm talking about those unexpected guides, mentors, people who show up when we might need some direction in our life. I really will never forget being 20 years old in college in my apartment. I still can bring myself back to that moment now. And I clicked on this YouTube video, and there was a professor, and his name was Jordan Peterson. I had no idea who he was, never heard of him, but something about the thumbnail just caught my attention. And when he started speaking, it was like I heard for the first time someone truly articulating something I had felt my whole life but could not put into words. And I know that sounds so melodramatic, but it really was true. And it led me to thinking about how I do feel like he is one of the strangers on the internet that saved me. Um, because here he was, someone who thought deeply, who reflected very intensely about life, which was something that I was looking for at that moment. And again, the very thing that I was craving but couldn't find in my immediate circle or with even people around me, I found through him. So again, that night really opened up my eyes to something profound, and actually a journey that I've been on for a really long time now is sometimes the mentors we don't come or sorry, sometimes the mentors we need or the people we need, they don't have to be mentors, don't come in the packages we expect. Sometimes they're strangers who never even know our names. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about and diving into what happens when we don't let the guides, when we don't get the guides we needed growing up, and how to find those guides in unexpected places. Because while you are always absolutely in the driver's seat of your life, I always say that, even the wisest drivers ask for directions. I want to talk about first something I'm going to call like the missing piece. And I don't know about you, but I think I'm seeing this more and more now. I want to talk about this feeling that I think a lot of us carry around, which is maybe this sense that we didn't have this person we would have needed in our formative years being there for us. Now, again, maybe it's just more me, but no, from like everything I've heard and talked to people, I think it's more people. But something that I've noticed after each passing year is that there are very few people who take the time to sit with us and actually ask us how we are and ask us where our heads are at. What emotional state have we been in? that really take the time to sit with us. I've actually only had 2 people in my life who have really done this, and they were not even in my family. Um, I never actually get to see them very much, but I will always remember the very short moments that I spent with them and how it just impacted me so profoundly. For example, I was going through a very hard time, and this person went out of their way to have a very difficult conversation with me that I was not expecting them to do. I'll never forget it because I was just kind of like sitting there and telling him about like what was happening. And he said very directly, like he made me look at him. He said, "What you are feeling right now, do not allow this to make you bitter, and do not allow this to make you believe all people do this." And well, first I started to cry because the way he spoke like into my eyes and saw what I was going through and like knew I was hurting, but how he didn't want me to think that, well, this is how it is. This is how people act. He's like, wrong. And I don't want you to now move on with your life thinking that. And that moment, that conversation, of course, like it made me think. It was brief, but it mattered so much because in that moment, he saw me and he cared enough to speak that truth into my life. Like, how many people don't get that, don't have that, don't even have the capacity to know that experience that they just had could make them very bitter and affect their life in so many ways. And this brought me to think about something that I actually remember hearing about from a girl I used to follow on TikTok who said her grandmother would always ask her before bed many times, "Where are you in the world?" And I loved this question, and she explained it a little bit. And the concept is um, it's like basically she was saying, well, I'm going to put into my words what she kind of explained it to be. But basically, it was like her grandmother coming to her and saying, "Where are you? I'm trying to find you. Where are you mentally? Where are your thoughts? Where is your heart? Where are your dreams? What are you being affected with right now?" We talk a lot about emotional availability, and I think a lot of people see that as like, oh, somebody, that's a good thing, right? Like somebody that's able to have a good conversation with me. Yes, that's true. But I also think emotional availability is somebody that can sit and ask you that and be like, "Where are you in the world right now? What are you feeling? What are you thinking?" That's emotional availability, to not be talking just about like the superficial things of, "Oh, what cute guy did you find on Hinge?" Or, "I tried this sandwich the other day." Like those things are fun to talk about, don't get me wrong. But how many people, again, like ask us, "Well, where are you in the world?" And to have someone who cares enough to ask this, to listen, to be there, gosh, I just wish it's something that we all had all the time because it is so, so incredibly important. So, continuing on with this missing piece that I think we have a lot of these missing figures in our life. And listen, I don't say this to complain. Growing up, I had a good family. Um, but like a lot of people, my family had their things going on, and my parents were busy and they had their struggles. And, as I got older, I realized that, at least particularly for me, this could be very individualistic. There was this hunger in me for very deep conversations, for someone who would sit there and talk with me about these big questions of life. Like that just really became very like forefront in my thinking. And maybe there's somebody else who can relate to this. The thing is, yeah, of course I had all my basics covered. Amazing. Food, shelter, education, love. But there was still a deep space within me that felt empty. And I think this longing for someone who could help you make sense of the world and who could guide you through the complexities of becoming an adult. I mean, I do feel like that's normal. But that's the longing that I had. And I remember writing in my journal, There weren't adults in my life who had these deep conversations with me and who took me under their wing and helped me wrestle with these big questions, who asked me, "Where are you in the world right now, Maria?" And, that realization was painful. And sure, I could have spiraled into victimhood. Woe is Maria. Oh. But it was also very freeing. So painful because, well, again, I think we all want to feel seen and loved. I mean, do I really have to explain that? But also freeing because naming what was missing in my life helped me understand why I was still searching for something. So it was actually kind of good to have this emotion be reoccurring because it was like, oh, I'm missing something. I need to seek something out. There's probably a reason I feel this way. And here's the thing about human development. I do think we're designed to learn from those who came before us. I mean, passing down stories is literally as old as time. Like learning from the elderly is literally as old as time, right? We don't tend to do that as much anymore now. But I think there's this beautiful tradition of mentorship that goes back just way back. And again, elders teaching to the young, masters teaching their apprentices, like guides showing the way. But in our modern world, these connections have become fragmented. We're busy, we're disconnected, we're all moving all the time, including myself. Like the world is so global. And if we're being honest, many of the adults in our lives probably might not have had mentors either. They might have been doing their absolute best, but you can't pour from an empty cup, can you? So, again, like reflecting back on the adults in my life, no one was bad. It's just that I think we all get so caught up in life. We forget how to stop. And I think that question of where are you in the world right now, I don't even think people ask that to themselves, let alone someone else. So I'm not trying to blame anybody. I'm just trying to say I think this is what happens. So I think then again, we're all walking around kind of not knowing what to do, chickens without heads, and we need guidance. And I think this hunger for someone to help us understand our pain, our experiences, and figure out how to navigate this wild journey called life is real. And that's where I found myself when I was 20 and I came across that video. I just really wanted someone to help me make sense of what I was going through, to give me the tools to stay in the driver's seat. My life felt very chaotic. I wanted someone who could think deeply and who could reflect in the way that I naturally did. And I realized something that, again, sometimes the mentorship we crave doesn't come in the package we expected. I talked about this in my video before. And sometimes it's not the person sitting across from you at your kitchen table. Sometimes it's a voice coming through your headphones or something that you read or a manager at work or a distant cousin you just got reconnected with. And I think the beautiful thing about recognizing what's missing, like me, recognizing that, okay, I really want to have these deep conversations, is that once you understand where that comes from, you can actively seek to fill this gap. Because again, you're in the driver's seat and we're not victims, and you get to decide where you look for guidance. And in our digital age, I think there are actually so many more places that are unexpected where that guidance might be waiting for you. We, my friends, live in unique times. So, we're going to talk about all the people and we're going to talk about the digital lifeline. So, we identified this missing piece. I kind of talked about what was missing for me. Maybe it's missing, maybe you feel a little bit differently, but I all think we need guidance and mentorship. So, keep listening. This will do you good. So, again, the digital lifeline. I was 20. I was carrying around this weight. I wanted to have more of these conversations with people. And I really was just searching out somebody who could help me make sense of it all. And I said it before, but I came across Jordan Peterson. You may like him. You may hate him. I don't know. I like him. And I really liked that first YouTube video I came across that was his. What I like about him is that when I was listening to him, and I still do, he didn't always have all the answers, but I liked the way he thought about things. I felt like when I listened to him, it was like watching someone navigate the same complex terrain I was trying to understand, but he had maps and tools and ideas that I didn't have yet. Obviously, he's much older than me. So I just remember like sitting there thinking through so many of his videos, like, wow, this is exactly what I've been looking for. Like, this is the conversation that I wanted to have with people. And again, the craziest part is I've never met this guy. He has no idea who I am. He was just this stranger on the internet who happened to articulate things in a way that resonated very deeply with me. And again, back to that idea, life has this way of giving you what you need in a very unexpected package. And, for example, maybe you had a person that wasn't very, let's say a parent that wasn't very present in your life. But somehow a few years later, wife life placed a wise mentor into your life. Or maybe no adult ever truly saw you growing up, but then you found a podcast somewhere, a host of a podcast who put words to exactly what you had been feeling for years. Maybe you felt like you never had a sibling in your life. And then in seventh grade, you met this girl and you've been friends since. Like, again, back to the idea of life giving you something in an unexpected way. And this makes me come to think of why I'm actually so grateful for the internet, because I know so many people say, like, oh, the internet's terrible, it's messing up how I think, and it gets a bad rap. And yeah, I think some of that criticism is valid, but for me, it has given so much more than it has taken away, and also mindful consumption. Like if things are making you feel lesser and not good and putting you in this dead, rotting mode, be careful like with what you're consuming. I, again, feel like the internet has given me so much more than it's taken because it's allowed me to listen to people I would have never encountered otherwise. It's made possible for me to find wisdom from literally anywhere in the world. I mean, just think about that for a second. At any point in human history before now, your pool of potential mentors in your life was so limited to the people physically around you. And also, people used to live more in little towns, right? So, I mean, you're talking small circle. But now you can learn from anyone, anywhere, as long as they've put it up on social media. Now, again, there's a lot of crap on social media, but there's also a lot of gold on social media. And again, maybe this concept doesn't amaze you, but it amazes me. There's just no easier way now to access so much knowledge. And we live in a time where anyone can have a voice and share a message with the world. I mean, this is why I can sit here and share this message with you from Budapest, Hungary, because I have a camera and then I can upload it to YouTube. So, anyways, fascinating concept. But over the years, I've collected a lot of these voices and I call them the strangers who saved me, because it started out more with Jordan Peterson, but now I've found so many. And I really do have this whole collection of people that I listen to and admire to online, of course, because we do live in a digital age and I am part of the people who is moving around all the time. But again, I've never met them, but they've really guided me. And I really do think of them as the strangers who have helped save me. And I think what's so cool about this is, again, be careful about what you're consuming. It's really about finding the voices that speak directly to your needs, your pain, your questions, balancing out these voices of, are these people being truthful? It's about finding people, I think, who think the way you do, or people you would aspire to be. Um, I was very personally drawn to a lot of deep thinkers, people who reflect, people who just have this like unquenchable desire to understand things. And again, these people have really changed my life because suddenly I felt like I wasn't alone in the way I process things. And I remember listening to one podcast where the speaker said something that really hit me. And he said, people like us, so I'm talking about my personality, who rationalize and reflect and intellectualize everything. We didn't become that way and for no reason. That's how we coped with the pain we endured. And I used to not really understand why I had to understand everything, especially like these deep things that you kind of have to dig out more. And it clicked that the reason that I am the way I am and why I think so deeply about everything, it wasn't just some personality trait. I think it was how I coped and made sense of the world around me. Because, the older you get, the more you reflect on your childhood and all those things. And I've done a lot of reflecting. And a lot of the reason that I sought out these people in the first place is because I wanted to understand and I wanted to make sense of my world. And it's really helped me grow into somebody that I like. And I would have never been able to do this without these strangers' voices in my earbuds speaking truth to me while I was just going about my day or I was at the gym. So I'm curious. Who are the strangers who have saved you? Is this something that you've thought about? What voices have you found that maybe have spoken directly to you? Is there any YouTube video, person, or podcast that makes you feel less alone? Because if there's anything I know is that you're always in the driver's seat, but like I said before, I do think that the best drivers know when to listen and ask for directions because yeah, that annoying person might know a better route ahead for you than you do for yourself. All right, so we talked about the missing piece. We talked about the digital age and how it's so cool and you can really, find so many people. Now I really want to get into the practicality of the search for mentorship. Because let's say you're like, well, Maria, I don't have anyone around me that I could ask to talk about these things with, or I don't really like anyone online. And this is where I would tell you that I think there's something very powerful from passive discovery to active seeking, which is something I apply in my life all the time. It's like, okay, Maria, you want something? Go seek it out. Go figure it out. Like, go do something. Because the truth is, we're all busy. We are all busy and we're rushing from one thing to the next, barely catching our breath. And in that rush, I think we can just forget to sit down with ourselves and other people and seek out this guidance that we need and even just slowing down in life. And something that I've been thinking is about mentorship and how absolutely cool I think it is. And not just the digital kind, because while the digital kind is amazing, in person is extra amazing. Because, of course, while I'm incredibly grateful for the strangers who I do feel like aided me online, there is something irreplaceable about sitting across from someone who can look at you in the eye and speak directly to your life. So, what I want to do is I want to challenge you to think about what it would look like to actively seek out mentorship in your life. So, first ask yourself, okay, well, what kind of mentorship do you need? Do you want spiritual guidance? Do you want financial wisdom? Do you want career advice? Or maybe just someone who can help you think about life's big questions. So, I think this is going to depend on what season you're in, what you want, what you're focusing on right now. For me, at different seasons, I've needed different mentors. When I was struggling with more uh, like internal things. I needed more of a spiritual mentor. When I was trying to figure out my career path and money, I definitely needed somebody who, knew a lot about money. Again, this is going to go along with what you're wanting. But I think that once you know what you're looking for, this is when I'm going to urge you to start paying attention to the people already in your orbit. Because you might think there's nobody, but don't do that. Don't do that. Because there could be somebody at your workplace. Like, is there somebody at work you admire? Is there someone maybe if you go to church that you admire? Someone in your community? I always encourage people to go find out and do things in the community that they're interested in because they'll probably find like-minded people. Like, think about all the things you do. Surely there is someone you like and admire. And also, don't forget to look at your family. Please, like, maybe not mom and dad if you don't want to go to your mom and dad. Cousins, uncles, aunts, like life can be extended. Grandparents that you love. Again, an older cousin. I think most people have at least one family member in their life who would love to do this with them and just sit and talk with them. I guarantee there is someone who would be honored if you reached out and start simple. All you have to do is ask them to go out. Another example, if you don't want to ask a family member, is I'm going to give you a personal one of mine. So I do have a mentor. but it's a very spiritual mentor. And I noticed that at the gym, there was this older guy who could be my grandfather. Just like started talking to me and like saying little things. Very, very sweet, very, very kind. I would usually arrive at the gym when he would leave, and he would always say something to me. And actually, as I was writing this script, I was thinking to myself, I should just take the time and ask him one day if he would like to get a coffee. Because actually, there's a bar right outside of my gym, and I knew that he went there. So I said one day, hey, would you like to go to this bar with me? Sorry, would you like to go to the bar one day with me after the gym? And he said, absolutely, I would love that. And he gave me his phone number and we exchanged phone numbers. And I went with him to the bar. And it was super nice. And again, you have to warm up to these things with relationships, right? Like you just can't go in hot. So, this. Like, this is something that so many of us don't do anymore. We don't take the time out of our freaking day to just be with people, to just go sit and have a coffee, to just take our grandmother to Walmart, to just sit with our mom for a few extra minutes in the morning. Like a lot of times, I think it's sad, but we look at how people can benefit us and we don't want to think of how we can benefit people. And it just makes me so sad to think how rarely we care to like get to know people more. So here I was, and I use this example to show you like, okay, maybe let's say there's no one right now you would like to reach out to, but just like also be more open to talking to people, because if you do feel like you're the person that, well, there's nobody I could ask, I bet you it means you're not engaging with people. Engage with people at your workplace. Engage with people at school. Engage with the people sitting around you at a coffee shop. Like you have to talk to people. People are not going to come to you. I hate to break it to you. You have to put yourself out there. You have to ask for the number. Do you know how many conversations I have started in the last 5 months of my life? But I have met so many cool and amazing people. One of those people being the guy that I just mentioned at the gym. So again, if you're thinking, well, I don't know anybody, I would encourage you to start talking to people. So again, I can't sit here and feel sorry for you if you're not, oh no, my computer, if you're not engaging with people. So we talked about things we could do. Um, Again, you just need to be able to open the door with people, ask, become curious, start being interested in people. I personally think everyone has so much to share. Everyone has a story. It's just that many times we don't take the time to start asking people questions. But we should, because there are so many people who are so open and eager. Like example, this guy, I really didn't know how he was going to react when I asked to get a coffee with him. But he was so happy. He was so happy to go with me. So again, I think there are potential mentors often hiding in absolute plain sight. They're probably not wearing signs saying, "Oh, I have so much wisdom to share." They're just living their lives, but again, I think they all have something to share. So, this might seem really scary, actually asking somebody. Again, you don't start out being like, "Can you be my mentor?" Just start out wanting to get to know them and see where it goes from there. And also, you're going to meet some really weird people and you might not kick it off. That's also reality as well. But you have to put yourself out there. You have to try, because what are you going to lose? And what I've learned is that, like this guy that I went out with and I'll go out again with when I'm in Spain, is that most people are honored that you just want to do something with them. Like by you even wanting to give your time to somebody, I feel like that's saying like, "Hey, I think you're valuable because I'm giving you my time." Um and it can even be, when you are able to get to those more deeper questions with them or whatever you want to talk about, you could say something like, "I've always admired how you handled XYZ." Let's say it's your boss or someone that you do know a little bit more. Would you be willing to meet for coffee once a month so I could ask you a bit more questions about this? I'm telling you, if you do it properly, people will be so open to wanting to help you. And in my experience, most people have said yes. This is very different than like some type of romantic encounter. So this is where I'm going to circle back to the driving metaphor. Um So, yeah, this is where I'm going to circle back to our driving metaphor. Seeking mentorship doesn't mean giving up the wheel of your life and not being the driver. You're driving. You're just willing to listen to someone who might know the roads better than you in certain areas. And that's not weakness, it's wisdom. And again, I've also found that the people who tend to make the best mentors aren't necessarily the ones that might have the most impressive resumes or the biggest platforms. Again, sometimes they're just people who are a few steps ahead of you on the journey and who have fought through similar struggles and found their way to the other side. And I think that's really, really cool. So, also, I think what's beautiful about all this is as you get older, you'll find yourself becoming a mentor to others too. And again, I think that's how this whole thing works. We receive wisdom, we pass it on. We receive, we pass it on. It is ancient and it's one of the most beautiful cycles in human history and also human connection. So, again, I want to challenge you to think of at least one person in your life right now who could be a potential mentor. Who is that person for you? What do you admire about them? What could you learn from them? And if you don't feel like you have anybody to ask right now, start talking to people. My God, start talking to people, please. And again, just find the courage to ask because staying in the driver's seat of your life sometimes means you have to be brave, you have to humble yourself and ask people for directions. So, all right, I think that's everything for this section. Let's get on to the next one. All right, before I ended this podcast, I want to talk about what I touched on a little bit earlier, which was a lot of people give social media a bad rap. Oh, social media, it's ruining us. I mean, I'm not going to say there's not some truth to that, but just like everything else in mankind, it has its goods and it has its bads. And this is where I think you as an individual need to have responsibility of how you use something. So I want to talk about consuming with intention and talk about the digital garden approach. So, I mean, yes, we're all drowning in content. There are so many people putting content out there, including myself. Podcasts, YouTube videos, books, articles. I mean, I recently discovered Substack like 2 months ago, and oh, I'm devouring the Substacks. I love Substack. But I think one of the biggest issues right now is that most people are passive consumers. We scroll on TikTok to numb out. I am guilty of this. This is still something I've been doing for about 15 minutes every day. And every time I do it, I'm like, get your butt up. Because I like content, but I don't like scrolling stupid content. Again, we listen to podcasts 2 times X speed. We skim articles. Like we're constantly looking for our piece of content to give us the answer right away. But most of the time, we don't remember anything. We're consuming and it's going in one ear, out the other. So what if there was a better way? What if instead of consuming more, we just simply consumed with intention? This is something that I've actually been putting to practice in the last like 3 months, and it's actually completely transformed how I've been learning from the digital mentors in my life. I have forced myself to slow down with consumption, and I have been doing something called a digital garden. Now, you might be thinking, what the frick is a digital garden? Well, it's not a timeline like social media. It's more like your personal Wikipedia page with interconnected thoughts and ideas. So here's how a digital garden works for me. When I find a digital mentor that really resonates, maybe it's on a podcast episode, a YouTube video, I just don't listen and move on or listen while I'm doing something. I pause. I take notes on what they're actually saying, sometimes word for word. And these are the notes that I call my source material notes because it's coming straight from the horse's mouth. Yeah, I think I said that right. So again, it's exactly their word. So we're stopping down, we're taking notes. And as annoying as it is, if you don't, you're just not going to remember. But this is where it gets interesting. Then, after I capture what they said, I then create my own decontextualized notes. And these are my thoughts about their thoughts. And I actually do this a lot when I'm writing my podcast episodes because, of course, like what I talk about is things that I've heard from other places. But I always make sure to take what they said and paraphrase it in my own words. Because remember, that this is going to make you remember it more. And honestly, unless you can sit and explain something to yourself verbally, I don't think you understand it. Fight me. I have this way of thinking. So Yeah, this is what has worked for me. Um, because essentially, then I can start connecting all these ideas together using tags or themes. So maybe I'm listening to a podcast about relationships, and the host says something that connects that to what I read in a book about boundaries last month. So in my digital garden, I can link those ideas together, even though they came from different sources. And actually, I watched an amazing video on this of a girl who broke this down way better than I did, and I'm going to link it if you're curious. But over time, this digital garden creates this beautiful web of interconnected thoughts and ideas that are uniquely yours. And you start to see patterns in what you're interested in. You get to know yourself better. And and most importantly, you're inviting your own thought processes into the conversation rather than just being a passive recipient of what someone else said. So, again, you took those direct source notes, but then you thought about it later and you decontextualize it with what you thought. So, the key factors that make this digital garden work are it's topography based, it's less like a blog or journal, and it's more like a web of your connected ideas. It's continuously growing because it's a garden, and gardens are never finished, and they're always needing to be evolved. They're always needing to be watered. And it embraces a lot of imperfection because it might look very scattered. These aren't perfect, polished thoughts, right? It's just the thoughts that you have, jotting them down. And also, it's for you. It's not for posting or impressing other people. So I really love this approach. I've been doing it for about 4 months now. And what I like best about it is that it forces you to slow down. It forces you to think about something that you listened to and you liked, but then think about it for yourself. There are so many times I have conversations with people, and simply from the way they're speaking, I can tell they haven't thought about this for themselves. They're just reading a headline that they saw on CNN and spewing it out to me. We need to start thinking. And I know right now it doesn't help that we have AI that, I'm very guilty of using every day, but start using it a good way. You know what I help AI have me do? A lot of times when I write the original source notes, I have AI help me organize those. Then I write my own notes on those original source notes and I have AI help me organize. But I make sure that I think first, not the AI. So, again, when you hear something interesting, please pause, reflect, write, because it provides instant feedback on whether you've really understood what you've consumed when you take the time to do this, because you have to put it in your own words. And again, I just think this is so important because more is not better when it comes to consumption. I'm tired of seeing these YouTube videos of somebody saying, I read 200 books this year. And how did you read 200 books? Well, I hope they were all fiction and rom-com, because no way you're reading the books I'm reading and you're saying you read 200. Like, one deeply processed idea from a digital mentor can be more transformative than 100 passively consumed video, podcasts, or books. Like, I really think this idea of this garden means so much more than you reading 200 books. Like, I'm not trying to say that's bad, but again, are you actually consuming this though? Like, the books you're reading should change the way you're thinking, should change your life. And if you can't remember what you read a month ago, I just personally think that's pointless. So I challenge you to pick one piece of content from a digital mentor that you admire this week. It could be a podcast episode, a YouTube video, a book. And instead of rushing through with it, sit with it. Take notes, write down your thought about the notes that you took, and see how it connects to other ideas you've encountered, and then see what pops into your mind. Like, have you ever thought about why things stick out to you? Maybe things stick out to us when we're reading or hearing something because there's something internally in us that is seeking out that question. I don't know if that makes sense, but I've noticed that when I hear something and I'm like, oh, that really stuck with me, it tends to be related to something that I'm going through internally. And there's somehow an answer in that tidbit of information. Because again, why did that out of everything else stand out to you? It might mean something. So again, I think this is how strangers can help save us. Not when we mindlessly consume our content, but when we engage with it deeply enough. I think this is when it becomes a part of our own thinking, our own wisdom, and makes us our own individuals. We made it to the end. Here we are circling back to where we started, which is that wise drivers ask for directions. And like I've said so many times, life is tough for sure. And the road isn't always going to be clearly marked. There's so many detours, so many roadblocks, and moments where the map just doesn't seem to match where we're at. So, what I hope you take away from today's episode is this beautiful balance that you, of course, are driving your car, but you are humble enough to seek guidance along the way. No one is self made. We are made up of 1,000 people that we encounter, that we talk to. Now, in these times, what we're consuming online. And again, sometimes this guidance comes from a very unexpected place, from strangers on the internet who can somehow directly speak to you. Sometimes it can come from people hiding in plain sight in your everyday life. If only you have the courage to ask. And sometimes I think even the most profound wisdom comes from when you just slow down and really digest what you're learning. And again, going back to the idea of creating your own digital garden where you can connect your ideas, slowing down and asking yourself, where am I in the world? And then asking that to the other people around you. I think if we all did this more, it would really help us feel less lonely because we are living in times where we're very disconnected. So some of the strangers who saved me, people like Jordan Peterson when I was 20, or the podcast Hope that helped me understand why I think the way they do. They didn't take the wheel from me. They just helped me navigate my life better, and they showed me routes that I might not have found on my own. And I'm so grateful for that. So I just want to leave you with a simple challenge. Again, I think I said it before, but identify one person in your life, family member, colleague, or start talking to people, a friendly person at the gym, whoever, who might have wisdom to share in an area that you really want to grow in. Send them a message today, send them a message on DMs, ask them in person. That would really be the best. And then also, choose one piece of content from a digital mentor you admire, a podcast, a YouTube video, a book chapter, and engage with it deeply. Take notes, write down your own thoughts about it, plant it in your garden and see what grows. I wish people would think for themselves more. And, I've said this before on the podcast, don't take what I say at face value. Think about it for yourself. That's what makes people interesting and fun. Um, yeah, I think at the end of the day in life, we're not meant to do this journey alone. We need guides along the way. And whether those guides are sitting across from you at a coffee shop or speaking through your earbuds to you on your morning commute to work, I really think other people's wisdom can be what helps us stay in our driver's seat confidently when life gets tough. And like I always say, life is tough, but my friend, you are tougher. And sometimes it can be tough to admit that you don't have all the answers, but in those moments, just ask for direction. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really hope it can be insightful. I will link the video about the digital garden below, and I will catch you in next week's episode.